Good morning, church. Peace be with you. My name is Dale Meese, and I am the chair of the Finance Committee of the Board of Directors of Penn Central Conference. I have served in church financial roles for over 30 years, and it is indeed an honor to be able to deliver this year's conference financial presentation to you in this special way. I'm sorry that I cannot be with you to deliver this important message in person, but I'm fulfilling a personal commitment to help some of my dearest friends move to Nashville. We are in a challenging situation as a conference financially. I have learned through the years, like many of you, that church financial and stewardship challenges have their roots in spiritual issues and require honest communication to raise awareness and trigger renewed commitment. We are God's people, and we need to find ways to connect to God in order to be the church together. As I ponder the place where we are, I was drawn to these familiar passages from Ecclesiastes that remind us of the seasonal nature of life. Hear these words from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. These passages from Ecclesiastes draw us into the stark contrast between the events and actions at opposite ends of the spectrum of life's seasons. These items tug at our hearts and souls because we can relate to the difficult challenges and the extreme joy that are shared. These words provide us with comfort and strength in knowing that nothing good or bad lasts forever. In these verses, we are reminded of the seasonal nature of life. I've considered some other times in the spirit of these words from Ecclesiastes to help draw us together in sharing the financial stewardship of the conference. I hope that you will join me as we reflect upon some other times to consider. The first time to consider is a time for thanksgiving. It is so important to pause and give thanks to all of you and to all of our churches for being the body of Christ in the world. Thank you for investing your time, your energy, your talents, and your treasure in your church, in your communities, in our conference, and in the United Church of Christ. Together we make a difference because of the love that is at the heart of what we do, and the love of Christ is at the center of who we are. Thank you for the financial gifts from our churches and our personal gifts so that we can be the church together as Penn Central Conference and the United Church of Christ. Thanks for your covenant to be a part of the wider church and to continue to accept the costs and joys of discipleship. I also want to deeply thank you for all of your prayers and all of your support for the ministry and leadership of Penn Central Conference. They mean so much to all of us who serve on the staff of the conference and on the board of directors. The next time to consider is a time for where we are. It is important for us to know where we are in order for us to find common ground to establish a way forward for all of us that we can be the church together. We are challenged as covenant partners, including churches and members of Penn Central Conference, to continue to keep doing things the way that we always have. We are challenged financially to continue our ministry together. We wrestle with our calls to ministry that play tug of war with our hearts and our beliefs of what our larger church should be doing together. We need to be aware of some current facts to help us forge our priorities for the journey forward together. The graph on this slide illustrates the reality of the downward trend in giving to our church's wider mission to Penn Central Conference from 2013 through 2018. The solid blue line connects the dots between the total annual gifts to OCWM during this time. The total annual giving has decreased by $110,465 from 2013 to 2018. Except for an increase of approximately $28,000 in 2017, the dotted blue line illustrates the trend in decreased giving to OCWM. The Board of Directors unfortunately had to take some difficult actions so far in 2019 to deal with the financial problems that we have faced. We had to make a one-time transfer of $60,000 from the Wilbur Valentine bequest to meet conference financial commitments for January and February 2019. We also had to make the incredibly difficult decision to temporarily reduce our contributions to National OCWM to 10% for April through June 2019. These were not easy decisions. We struggled with them, we debated, and we agonized over these decisions because they are painful and they impact lives and our calls to ministry. The actual decreases in giving to OCWM that we displayed earlier have led us onto the road to a $125,000 dilemma as a conference and in our ability to be Christ Church together. While it looks like we are on a smooth, straight road ahead on our trip to the mountaintop, we need to be aware of the falling rocks that could block our path and impede, if not stop, our journey forward together. We did not have to travel far to experience the first rock slide that is part of the $125,000 dilemma. The first rock slide that we have encountered is the need to reduce our conference's contributions to the National OCWM to 10% from 20%. While there's still plenty of room on the road to swerve around this rock slide, and some may say it is just the reality of the times, it is not something that we want to do. It was painful to consider as a board and painful to accept as even a temporary solution. We are called to support the combined works of the United Church of Christ across the country and around the world. We are called to support the services that OCWM provides through disaster relief ministries and other ways that together we change lives. We only had to travel a little farther to experience the second rock slide that is part of the $125,000 dilemma. The second rock slide that we have encountered is much more disruptive to our journey forward. We need to stop and pause and carefully consider how we navigate through this arrangement of rocks in the road ahead. The second rock slide requires us to consider changing the roles of the conference clergy staff and the number of conference clergy staff. The $125,000 shortfall inhibits our conference from adequately supporting the complement of full-time conference clergy that we had just 5 years ago. The $125,000 shortfall equates to the salary and housing and the cost of all the benefits for one full-time associate conference minister. The third rock slide that symbolizes the $125,000 dilemma is much more ominous and challenging to navigate. This rock slide symbolizes the challenges of continuing to underutilize Hartman Center to the point where the conference has to commit approximately $125,000 per year to underwrite the 5 weeks of church camp programs. The Hartman Center Committee and members of the Finance Committee have been working to establish a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization for Hartman Center to help identify and establish new funding streams through grants that are open to outdoor programs that are not directly tied to religious organizations and other ways of increasing the number of days that Hartman Center is used each year. Where we are currently at is not a comfortable or acceptable place as a conference. It is important to consider a time for where we are going and how we are going to get there. The proposed 2020 conference budgets that were built by the Finance Committee and approved by the Board of Directors for presentation had to take into account where we are. They were also built on the premise and understanding that the conference is in a time of healing and recovering so that we can become healthy again. Highlights from the proposed 2020 Penn Central Conference General Fund budget are as follows. The total proposed 2020 conference budget is $1,070,720. The total budget is actually $1,234 less than the current 2019 budget, which allows us some of the time needed to heal and start together on the journey forward. The proposed 2020 conference budget is unfortunately built upon reducing the conference contribution to National OCWM to 10% for the entire year. This was a difficult and painful decision. This results in decreasing the total contribution to National OCWM by $72,162. The proposed budget includes an increase of $87,100 to support the operation of Hartman Center. The proposed budget includes a total combined compensation pool of $358,000 for salary and housing and benefits for the conference clergy staff. Highlights from the proposed 2020 Hartman Center budget are as follows. The total proposed 2020 Hartman Center budget is $289,700. The total budget is $20,300 more than the current 2019 budget. The budget is built upon a projected decrease in income from Penn Central Conference summer camp programs of $35,000. This is based on the trend in actual income from summer camp. The budget is built upon a $87,100 increase in financial support directly from the proposed 2020 conference budget. This large increase in conference support is needed until other viable funding streams like grants or additional usage of Hartman Center can be found. We have shared a lot with you today. We are now entering a time to contemplate. Please take some time to contemplate the following items and questions. Our covenant as churches with our conference and with the National United Church of Christ. What calls us to be the church together as Penn Central Conference? What are the things that draw us together as the churches of Penn Central Conference? What is at the heart of our being the church together? What are the new ways that we are being called to be the church? What are the old ways that we need to shed to be nimble and move forward together? We also need to contemplate the joy and value that we find in giving together to OCWM. I have loved this chart since the first time that I got my hands on it at the General Synod meeting in Cleveland in 2015. It is filled with numbers that call out the ways that we are one church through our gifts to OCWM. It provides reminders about the ways that we care for our neighbors in time of need. It shows us that we are part of God's great plan for us to be the people of what comes next. And now it is a time for us to act as a united and uniting church. The first action we are asking you to consider is the following. Reflect upon the covenant that you personally have with the conference and the United Church of Christ. How and when have you been called upon the wider church for care and nurture? The next action that we're asking you to consider is the following. The sharing of your financial gifts to support OCWM. Consider how you and your church are funding your gifts to the conference and the United Church of Christ. Is it intentional? What are you doing to consciously give to OCWM? Is giving to OCWM a line item in your church's budget? Would you consider doing a fundraising activity at your church just for OCWM? Could you send your OCWM gifts on a regular basis, like on a monthly basis? Please consider increasing your giving to OCWM out of your love and commitment to all that OCWM does to help us be the church. Finally, we are asking you to act by investing your ideas, time, and energy in finding additional usage and funding for Hartman Center. In closing, we are drawn again to those words from Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. We are in a season of healing as Penn Central Conference. We are moving toward a season of renewal. We are called to be the church. There are two quotes that I'd like to leave you with. They have had a profound impact on me and energized me in my service to the church. The first quote is from our dear friend, Reverend Dr. Galen Russell, who said, "Our vision forward must always be stronger than our memories of the past." The second quote is from the Reverend John Dorhauer, President of the United Church of Christ, who said, "We cannot afford to be God's best-kept secret." We certainly cannot. Church is the one thing that we will do in our lifetime that needs to outlive our lifetime. Thank you for being the United Church of Christ in Central Pennsylvania. Peace be to you, my friends. Thank you.